These days, clients want it all: a slick looking site that can run their business and scale with their success. The good news? That's exactly what Wix Studio is built for. Plan out your client's whole site in seconds with AI powered site mapping and wireframing. Then, when everyone's on the same page, jump into the creative, starting off in Figma and exporting it in a click, or in the Wix Studio editor with precise layouting tools like Grid, Stack, and Flexbox. Go above and beyond the brief with no-code animations, custom CSS, and built-in business solutions, and make your whole vision responsive in a click. And there's zero need to break a sweat when clients grow fast. A dynamic CMS with global design settings and reusable assets lets you turn one page into hundreds. Design smoother and deliver sooner. Go to wixstudio.com.
We're interrupting this podcast to ask you a very important question. Have you had your Hershey's? When you need to brighten up your day, put a smile on your face with the classic creamy texture and pure milk chocolate flavor of Hershey's milk chocolate. Whether you're eating it on the go, breaking off a few pieces for s'mores night, or just treating yourself to something sweet, Hershey's milk chocolate checks all the boxes. Shop for Hershey's milk chocolate now at a store near you, found wherever candy is sold.
Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 350 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game.
Question for the audience. Aside from networking, the speakers and Canada Growth Network, CGN, would like to address the major problem of scaling businesses efficiently without overwhelming the business owner. They focus on helping businesses leverage automated systems to drive consistent growth through referral partnerships, ensuring sustained revenue with minimal effort. This includes the use of referral systems, marketing tools, and collaboration to simplify the growth process and boost profits while maintaining valuable business relationships. The panelists today are Percy Barr, Chris Sturgis, Wayne Pratt, and myself, Bernie Fransgrove. Percy is a certified life coach, AI strategist who helps businesses grow through focused goal setting, communication, and personal development. Chris is a veteran event producer and special effects expert known for creating powerful, immersive experiences that connect people and drive engagement. Wayne is a motivational coach, podcast host who also guides solopreneurs through business transitions with clarity, purpose, and community support. And myself, I'm a business connector, a strategist helping entrepreneurs grow through creative insight, East Trade Wins, and the Knack for Business podcast. Gentlemen, we're here today, and let's talk about the Canada Growth Network and what that means. What is the underlying infrastructure? Percy, why don't you kind of trip the wire?
Canada Growth Network has come out of really a cooperation between the four of us. We were chatting about things that go on in our business, and we're trying to decide how we move forward in each of our individual businesses. We realized that there's a real issue with support for Canadian businesses, and there's a need for a community that we can work together and a chance to use each other's skills and learn from them in a mastermind type of situation. We realize that in today's environment with the things that are going on in the political spectrum, Canadians on a whole are feeling left out of the whole world environment. And so we're trying to get a group of people together who want to move forward with their business and want to market themselves either to the world or fellow Canadians, but we're trying to focus it in on Canadians as members.
Chris, what's the impact for CGN to the groups, to the people you meet, that you would feel this would be a viable product for them?
I do a lot of business networking. I run a lot of in-person and online events, and I did feel that there was something missing. This universal growth is something I've always worked with, and I want to see more of it, and that's why the Canada Growth Network became so important. You need a way to reach those people that don't feel that they can contribute, and it's all about community for me, and this is part of building a community, as we said, by Canadians for Canadians, supporting each other's growth in an economic environment that is going to be a tad challenging. That's really it, is I want to help people, and oh yeah, I got to keep remembering that there has to be some revenue, but that's also where we share in the Canada Growth Network, where referrals drive business and business drives revenue, and we all share in the success.
So, Wayne, from your perspective and what you've seen in the business communities that you've touched base with over the last few years, or actually last couple of decades for yourself, where do you see the light coming in for the entrepreneur that's going to be part of the CGN space?
Well, I've been around networking for a very, very long time, from all the way we're handing out business cards at chapter events to Zoom et al. And the one thing that I find the most exciting is my other hat. Not Wayne the business person, but Wayne the customer, Wayne the buyer, Wayne the person who wants something different for him. So that the referrals are more organic and more real and more build me. So I'm pretty excited about becoming and having and doing more organically through month after month of being involved with a community that wants to grow as a community.
Wayne, I can't stress it enough that I totally agree, and that is the core. And at least two of us have come from the corporate world that's on this panel. And part of that is exit strategy from the corporate world. What's next? How does that look? We have a certain business acumen, but what else are we lacking? What don't we know that we need to know? It's something we will have resources around us that will help drive that success factor, moving us forward and making things happen. And this is a perfect example. 4 resources, are better, way better than one, unless of course you're really super gifted or your ego is too big. Percy, I'm going to swing back to you, and kind of, we actually even open up as a round robin. What's happening next? Someone comes and going, I'm here, and
To get involved with CGN is pretty simple. We have a couple of levels that you can get involved. But the basis of this is we have a weekly meeting, much like much other groups have, but they're a little bit different because what we find in a lot of the networking groups is the weekly meeting is an introduction of the people, and then there's an hour to 2 hour pitches. And although those are interesting, we're probably pitching to the wrong people. So we kind of spun that around and said, look, what do entrepreneurs actually need more than just hearing other people's pitches? And that was actually education. Things like how do I actually approach a client? How do I use LinkedIn to generate leads? How do I get involved in Facebook? How do I create a CRM or customer relation management system that actually makes less work for me? How do we use artificial intelligence to drive content creation or to drive customer relations? Those are all kinds of things that you end up going up and paying other courses for. Well, that's part of what we're going to do is we're going to have that inside the course. Is the pitches important? Yeah, they are. Wayne does a little bit of training on the perfect pitch, and there's some resources available there. It's the other pieces that are missing. And there's very little place to actually go and say, hey, I'm having a problem with this. Is there any help for me? CGN is going to be one of those places where you can bring those problems and we can sort through them, not only using the experience of the 4 people that we have here, but also the experience of the entire group.
Well, we did that exact thing just before this meeting. Checking your blind spots is a very valuable thing as a business person. Are you making a mistake that you have no idea? I know countless cases where somebody has started a business and then realized, oh, it's actually against the law. You're not allowed to do that. Wouldn't it be nice to know that before you started?
Yeah. Well, Chris, we want to use something other than the Vince Lombardi system, which is fall forward, right? So we actually want to have a chance where people can discuss things before they go out and actually do them, and do it in an environment that's encouraging and that's supportive and is all focused on them being successful, as opposed to, yeah, that's not going to work. And why would you ever try? We're not into that. It's like, have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? Have you done this? It looks like you've got all the pieces together, and we want to hear what the results were of those. So if you go out on a marketing campaign and we decided we talked about it, we want to hear the results of that. And so we can take that results and spread it amongst the group. Proof in the pudding.
And if it is a good pitch and a good thing and a good idea, a couple people in the group might say, hey, you know what? I could use that. And maybe you walk out of that with a couple of sales right out of the gate.
Or maybe
And it may be transferable to your business. You may have to put some spin on it of your particular flavor because we're all unique individuals. And what works for Chris won't work for me, and what works for Wayne won't work for me because we've actually tried that. We've gone out with the same pitches. Works for Wayne, doesn't work for me. Yeah. So we have to make them unique. But imagine having a place where you can actually go to and say, hey, I've got this idea for a new business, and here's the pitch that I was going to use on it. And you actually had a time set aside to work through the pitch, work through the idea, and then actually work through some of the marketing material. Well, that's what CGN is going to be about. We're talking about doing a quarterly meeting called a mastermind, where you can bring those types of ideas together and actually talk about those things together and see whether it's a viable product or not.
I think Wayne you've talked to us, Wayne, about the perfect example what you did help someone today earlier, prep a speech. Actually, you helped them last week, but it was for an event today.
Well, it's kind of neat. There are people like Percy who's done a lot of speaking and has gone through Toastmasters and has learned how to speak and present. What I have seen is in 2 years of people pitching, when it really, really goes badly, and you're actually checking ums and ahs on your notebook. It was what I wanted to hear from her was what she wanted to present, and I helped her change who it was being presented to, and it worked really well. She, I think, did a better job and was certainly more relaxed and certainly less scared, and certainly she thought she had an audience that had already been tested, so it worked well. To learn how not to do something is as important as how to learn to do something.
And I think the net result out of that session was that it touched a lot of souls in that meeting, but at the same time, it also opened up new opportunities because she said, hi, this is the product, this is what I'm doing. And someone says, oh, by the way, I have an opportunity. There might be an opportunity out of that. And that's the other really cool thing about CGN, the Canada Growth Network, is there's opportunities. Some of them are hidden because you'll say something and it'll trigger in someone else going, hey, wait a minute, right? And so there's other layers of, it's not just a matter of referrals. It's a matter of you're working with people and someone will say, what about?
Bernie, the interesting thing is most of us know who that person was that Wayne helped. And I've known that particular person for a number of years. And I've listened to a number of the pitches that person has given. That was the best pitch they've ever given. Mostly because they'd actually practiced it in front of somebody before they went out and did it. Can you imagine having a place where you can safely practice your pitch and not worry about whether you're stumbling over your words? And someone actually helps you, gives you a positive critique about where you can change the wording so that it flows better. I mean, that's invaluable. I don't know if anyone's priced a Dale Carnegie sales course lately, but it's still $5 or $6 grand.
Yeah.
So what if we offer that as part of your membership?
So this is a fantastic opportunity for a lot of people. I work with a very specific group of people as well that are pitching their high-tech startups. They're founders. They're doing pitching presentations in front of a room full of investors. And sometimes, very often, they're looking for $500,000 at a time. That's a lot of money to be going for as a regular pitch. None of them have access to this level of stuff until we actually say, okay, go back to the drawing board, start over. You're not pitching yet because you're not ready. But making that level of stuff, because we bring that with us, making that level of support available to everybody is a fantastic opportunity. And it just makes everybody that much more successful, confident, relaxed. It's a win-win, and that is the ultimate goal.
And we have to remember that everyone who's listening to this podcast, and ourselves included, have seen a lot of pitches over the years. We kind of have an idea what works and what doesn't work. But how many people get into the market and they spend a significant amount of their pitch time actually talking about themselves, not the product? We'll solve that for you. That alone could provide you with a new source of business that you didn't have before.
But it's also about community too. We're talking about pitching because that is the way that most people can see an immediate change. You know, pitching in front of a bunch of people who you're starting to consider as friends even online, starting to actually communicate with people and start to feel safe enough to be vulnerable and say, hey, I'm really worried about this. And that's where we can also step in as a group and support.
There are three other areas I think I would like to touch on that are really strong highlight. One is the ability to pivot. The other is referrals. And then finally, CRMs, customer relation management. Who wants to pick up the pivot part?
So Wayne's been doing it for far longer. I just had a lot of people ask me about pivoting. I found that approximately 50% of the people that I meet in business networking right now are looking to either build their business because they know what they're doing and they're already secure in their business proposition and they're looking to better access their market. The other 50% of the people are looking for a new job. They're looking for a new opportunity. They know they're going to be downsized or the existing opportunity is not working and they're looking to pivot. Now, Wayne.
This is actually interesting where the good news is the bad news. I've learned how to pivot well because I've had to pivot. You shouldn't actually find out that the boss's nephew was the guy you were talking about. But that's another story.
Yeah. I've been focusing on becoming a singularity, i.e., a point in space of infinite mass or no volume, or however you want to put it, but somebody who can pivot infinitely. Because beginning of COVID, I was working in film and I was working in running events. And I figured those two industries were absolutely guaranteed to never see a problem. And then March 2020 rolled and it's like, oh, everything I do is now toast. So I had to pivot and I'm still pivoting. And with the AI and with automation and the change in the economy, and I'm pivoting and pivoting. And I'm learning through those pivots that, you know what, there's a certain few things that don't change. And that's what your core values are, what your core strengths are. And that's really what you need to do ultimately to figure out how are you going to be happy? Because doing something that is fulfilling and rewarding that pays the bills is going to be the magic of the pivot.
The thing that is the most interesting is if you are only what you do, then you're always at risk. Become who you are, and then you're never at risk.
Perfect.
So I think the next kind of layer of this, maybe I did referrals and CRM as the pecking order, but perhaps we should start off with the CRM because then we can talk about the referrals based off the CRM. Percy, you're our subject matter expert on customer relation management. And over to you.
So one of the advantages of CGN is that we are a repurposer of a well-known CRM, which is Go High Level. And so that is part of your membership. And Go High Level does a lot of things other than CRM work. It does web page work, it does funnel work, it does surveys and billings and all kinds of things that most people need to buy if they're going to go into business. And so it's a big savings that way. But Chris and Wayne were talking about pivoting. And one of the things about pivoting is that although you pivot, you still need customers. And who better to go to your new product and help support your new product than people you've already sold to? And how do you keep that list of people so that you can keep generating money back from it and keep people aware that you're actually still in business and still doing things? Because businesses change, and most people find that they lose a client, not so much because their product was the wrong place, but because the client had forgotten that they actually did that business with them years ago. So this is a way of keeping track of them. So if you already had that list and you made a pivot, at least you had people who are warm leads that you can actually present the new product to or the new service to. And it's quite possible that could be your starting place for your new business. But most people, unfortunately, they're using Post-it notes for their client list, or they've got a whole bunch of business cards that are sitting in a drawer. What are you doing with them? You're not promoting them. You've got a bunch of people in your Outlook address book or your Google address book. What if you could bring those into a system where you could capture all the conversations? You could send out general emails, and you could actually collect things like demographic information, birthdays, are they married? Do they have children? What level of education do they have? What sports do they like? All that stuff that as salespeople, as humans, we should be interested in another person. So that's what a CRM can do for you, plus all this other stuff. So what we've decided to do with CGN is to offer that in our executive membership so that you get a base and you can start to actually collect those names. And then on a weekly basis, we're actually going to have a tech meeting where you can actually learn some of that stuff. And if you don't want to go to that level, we'll find somebody to help you out with it. We don't want to leave you hanging.
I think there's enough subject matter expertise in this group that even, that all of us, I have not the tech background that Percy does, but I have some tech background, but I don't have the people background that Wayne does. And Chris, if you want to do a movie, Chris, are we doing movies?
Well, we're doing a movie right now, but we can always do movies. Movies is just storytelling, and storytelling is really what we're gathering to do. This is the fundamental piece of community that goes back tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, gathering together around a fire to tell a story. This is a variant of that. Right? We're getting together in a group to tell stories. Now, stories about business and stories about successes or failures, but we're telling stories. I have a number of clients that have a book or they have a concept or a project, and they want to tell it to a wider audience. That's where I come in. That's where we come in, because all of this comes down to business and having access to resources and being able to check your blind spots.
Yep.
All of this is possible when we work together as a group. There's a saying that if you get enough people that attend Burning Man together in one room, you'll have a film crew, because film is very much related. And the funny thing, if you have a large enough film crew, in that film crew, you will actually generate a rock band, a musical group. And I've seen that happen several times on shows that I've worked on where they've spontaneously been created. That's about community. It's about sharing, shared narratives, shared stories. And we want to create a community solely based around shared successes. And to do that, we need to support everybody, not just around necessarily the CRM or necessarily around pivoting or necessarily around podcasting and video. It's all about giving you enough tools to succeed and supporting you in every piece. And some of that support is just in having a set of ears and eyeballs to listen so that you can tell your stories. In some of the in-person groups that I run, people will cry because they're overwhelmed. But we've created a safe place where they know that it's somewhere they can do that. And having that support is something that we're also about. Obviously I'm a community guy, that's my thing. But yeah, no, I think we all have that to a certain extent. And that's why this is a fantastic opportunity to learn all the things you need to know. Like I suggested earlier in a different meeting, we're the vending machine. You go up and you hit the piece that you need right now, whether it's a Snickers bar or CRM management or an overview on AI, and you check that out and you get that piece of thing that you need.
One of the things I find fascinating is the words of wisdom, and Wayne provides that on a regular basis. So he's the sagely soul in different spaces that we've been in. So sagely soul, what do you forecast for people that become part of Canada Growth Network as a end result for them?
Well, one question I have is, can Chris turn me into an action hero?
Absolutely. I can print those anytime.
But having said that,
Why not use GN?
CG magic?
CGI or CGN? That's not a bad transition.
sir, one thing that has changed over the last 20 years is there's no shortage of information out there, but there is a shortage of transformation out there. And if I can, by putting a thought and unpackaging it in 2 or 3 minutes, give you something to chew on that you hadn't been chewing on, or answer a question in a new way, yes, you could have gone to a book. Yes, you could have got a BA somewhere, but just that 3-minute capsule, that vitamin pill to get you through the day, I'm pretty excited about.
Absolutely. So
Percy, where do you see things evolving inside CGN? What tools are there now and potentially up and coming?
Well, where I think the excitement will be is the actual putting the tools to work. One of the things that they've just put in is a voice activated secretary or assistant that you can use to handle calls. It's a terrible statistic, but I think it's like 80% of small businesses are actually missing calls because their lines are busy. Whereas if you had a virtual assistant, you could increase the number of lines pretty quickly and stop missing those calls and at least gather some information that you can either get back to the person or route them to the right place where they need to be. So that's one of the tools that would be available through CGN. But, the AI tools that I promote in my business, we see a lot of movement there. There's going to be more and more tools to get more focused on content creation, and whether it's video or whether it's audio, but there's also the movement of data within a business. And how do we use AI to actually speed up customer service? How do we do it to increase productivity as far as prospecting? And how do we create new products and how do we get them off the drawing board faster? That's where a lot of companies are going to lose out by staying on the sidelines. It's the old saying, you won't be put out of business by AI, but you'll be put out of business by someone who knows how to use AI.
It's been around for how long?
The last 4 or 5 years at least, right?
The world is changing very quickly.
And so is business. And the problem is for most of us, we can't go from idea to production fast enough because we can't sort out all the details about how to do that. For example, one of the challenges is to put together a challenge for your business. It takes a lot of work and effort. Well, what if you could come to a group and say, hey, I've done these 5 things. What else do I got to do? Well, we can get you some feedback on that and help you and support you. So, yeah.
That feedback might be just the fact that, oh, yeah, that's what so-and-so is doing. So pivot time.
The thing about businesses today is there will be a lot more of documentation of systems, not because everyone needs a manual about how their business works, but because if you want to use artificial intelligence at any point, you're going to have to work out some structures. And so, that's where things will probably be for the next 6 to 8 months as far as small businesses are concerned. May I add that AI is doubling every 6 months. So trying to keep up is also hard. For the average entrepreneur, they're not keeping up. They know that ChatGPT exists, but is that prompt working properly? Yeah, it may have worked in version 3 of ChatGPT, but is it working in 4i now? Not so much.
Chris, if someone wants to get a hold of us through Canada Growth Network, how do you do that?
CanadaGrowthNetwork.com. That's where you go to access this, to see what we're doing and sign up, because you want to sign up for these special offers. They're going to fill up, but also this is something you don't want to miss. If you're going to be going gangbusters come September, because September is go time for you, then get the foundation now. Learn the stuff, see what there is to offer. There are so many tools that will help you. There's a lot of things that will always help. And we intend to provide as many of those as we can because it's about growth. It's about Canada and growth and network.
Wayne, any closing remarks?
We have a desire not to be alone. And I've met many entrepreneurs that got quite isolated by their business. And just knowing that there's a dozen people to talk to, even if it's not about giving them a lead, is a pretty organic place to be. It's more helpful than people realize.
It is interesting to have been at a networking meeting, person to person, years ago. And that there's one gentleman in the back and he always had his arms crossed and didn't say anything, didn't really participate much. I had a coffee appointment with him months later and I said, I noticed that you don't really participate. He says, well, I don't, but you'd be amazed at how much information I get that makes my business better just by sitting there and listening. Some of it I can use, some of it I can't, but it's all good information.
I want to say thank you to Percy Barr, Chris Sturgis, and Wayne Pratt for being panelists on this podcast. For you listening in, From coaching a struggling solopreneur into confidently landing their first referral client to designing events that reignite business momentum, our work here helps people stop surviving and start thriving. And that's kind of the ultimate key, to start thriving, to build a future where collaboration replaces competition and every connection leads to a good possibility.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website, motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people: Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert; Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host; Jovan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space; then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner; and Wayne Pratt from Motive 8U Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer: please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.
As a designer, you know clients want it all: a stunning site that runs their business and scales with their success. But tight deadlines shouldn't mean compromising your vision. Wix Studio is built for designers like you. Plan sites in seconds with AI-powered site mapping, then design, starting in Figma or in the Wix Studio editor with precise layout tools. Then bring your vision to life with no-code animations, AI tools, and one-click responsive design. Design smoother and deliver sooner. Go to wixstudio.com.